Welcome to Hero Villains. Who do you think would win when Darkseid vs. Spawn, the Hell Tyrant facing the God of Infernal War? Darkseid is the supreme overlord of Apokolips, an entity born to dominate and crush the will of all living beings. He is not merely a simple tyrant, but the embodiment of absolute power and brutal order. With a transcendent intellect and physical strength far surpassing that of the gods, Darkseid views the universe as a chessboard, and all lives as mere pieces. The Omega Effect is his most terrifying weapon, allowing him to bend space, erase existence, torture souls, and impose his will. Spawn, also known as Simmons, was once human until he was betrayed and cast down into hell. Reborn as a Hellspawn, he becomes a warrior torn between darkness and the remnants of his humanity. Spawn's power comes from infernal energy, granting him the ability to manipulate shadows, regenerate his body, morph weapons, and command supernatural entities. When he reaches his omnipotent state, Spawn can even confront beings of cosmic scale. Before we dive deeper into the analysis, please press the subscribe button and remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you all very much. Darkseid was originally born with the name Uxas, the son of King Yuga Khan and Queen Hegra, and the second prince in the line of succession to the throne of Apokolips. From the very beginning, a desire for domination had already taken root in Uxas's mind, a silent yet intense ambition, waiting for the right moment to erupt. When his older brother Drax sought to claim the legendary Omega Force, Uxas did not hesitate to murder him, seizing the supreme power and allowing it to reconstruct both his body and soul. From that moment on, Uxas abandoned his old name and assumed the title Darkseid, an entity with the form of living stone, cold and devoid of emotion. Darkseid once loved Suli, a scientist of Apokolips, and together they had a son named Kalibak. However, that brief happiness was quickly crushed when Suli was poisoned by Darkseid under the orders of Hegra, who believed that love had weakened her son. Suli's death turned Darkseid into someone more ruthless than ever. He secretly took revenge by ordering Darkseid to poison his own mother, thereby seizing absolute power and becoming the supreme ruler of Apokolips. The family tragedy did not end there. Darkseid was once forced to marry Tigra and had another son named Orion. After eliminating Hegra, he exiled Tigra and Orion from Apokolips, viewing them as stains from his past. From the ashes of kinship and betrayal, Darkseid rose as the embodiment of tyranny, a dark god no longer bound by emotion, left only with a cold and absolute will to dominate the universe. Darkseid is an entity whose power nearly reaches a divine level, with a physique so durable it is almost indestructible. Most notable is the Omega Beam, a deadly visual ability capable of inflicting severe damage even on Kryptonians during the Silver Age. More terrifying still, Darkseid does not merely fire these energy beams, but can control them as they curve through the air, relentlessly pursuing their target until his will is fulfilled. Unlike his parents, Darkseid possesses a far broader and more complex spectrum of power. He surpasses Superman in raw strength and even gives the impression of being an almost limitless source of force. However, this power is tied to the physical form that Darkseid creates to exist within the material world. Some incarnations are powerful enough to contend evenly with Silver Age Superman, while others are so fearsome that they can battle the New 52 Anti-Monitor. Darkseid was once able to defeat pre-Crisis Superman when the Man of Steel was at his strongest, although those encounters occurred when Superman's power had already significantly declined. Even so, Superman still had to exert all his strength to fight him on equal footing. This fragile balance only makes Darkseid more terrifying. As a god of tyranny, Darkseid is virtually immune to bullets, missiles, or energy explosions at extremely high frequencies. All human diseases are completely meaningless before his divine-natured physique. Darkseid's Omega Beams are the symbol of absolute death, a power so devastating that few entities can survive if struck by their full force. Darkseid is an immortal being who has existed for at least more than 245,000 years. However, immortality does not mean he cannot be killed. He was once torn open through the chest by Orion in a fateful moment, and he nearly lost his life at the hands of Doomsday in Hunter Prey. This shows that Darkseid is not an untouchable god, but a colossal power, forever standing on the boundary between life and death. Darkseid also possesses terrifying psychic abilities. He can establish telepathic links with nearly every being in the universe, controlling the will of others through absolute mental dominance. The scale of his control is so vast that he can manipulate millions of beings simultaneously without any loss of power. With a single thought, Darkseid can transmute matter, disintegrate molecules, and erase targets from existence entirely. He also creates avatars to act when necessary, because his true form is too powerful to fully exist within the multiverse. Darkseid also possesses the ability to teleport and alter his physical size, once growing to colossal proportions when facing Jimmy Olsen in Countdown to Final Crisis. All of this combined makes Darkseid not merely a ruler, but a living obsession that haunts every reality. Even Doomsday, a being once likened to an unstoppable nightmare, trembles before Darkseid. This version of Doomsday is considered the strongest DC has ever portrayed, yet he was still easily overwhelmed by Darkseid's armies of minions. Darkseid in All in Special reached an unprecedented peak of power. He once stood unharmed before an explosion from Annihilation spheres amplified by his own Omega beams, an energy powerful enough to imprison a terrifying entity like God Brainiac, and Darkseid emerged completely unscathed. Darkseid consistently surpasses Val-Zod, defeating his opponent with a single strike. He crushed Infinity Man in an instant, even though that entity could withstand attacks at solar system level. Even while weakened, Darkseid remained stronger than pre-Crisis Mordru. With only a symbolic manifestation, he rendered the savage Steppenwolf utterly helpless and crushed him with ease, something even Superman had never accomplished. Darkseid once declared that he had incinerated 100,000 worlds using his own power alone, without relying on mother boxes or any auxiliary tools. This affirms that his power has reached a planetary scale, and even far beyond that limit. Wonder Woman acknowledged that the name Darkseid echoes across every universe. When Flash demonstrated that the multiverse is infinite, it meant that Darkseid had spread terror across countless realities. He is not merely a conqueror, but an ancient darkness that the entire multiverse remembers through its most primal fear. Darkseid is a new god who holds supreme authority over Apokolips. He commands mighty armies, advanced technology, and cosmic machines. His will can reshape regions of reality connected to Apokolips and influence other worlds. A master of strategy, manipulation, and technology. He employs cosmic weaponry, new god science, and cult-like structures to achieve long-term domination. I sincerely hope you will subscribe to the channel. It would help us tremendously, and you are truly amazing. Thank you very much. Now let us talk about Spawn. Spawn was once Al Simmons, an elite assassin forged through the harshest missions imaginable. He was not only an exceptional soldier, but also a symbol of loyalty and absolute competence. The peak of Al's career came when he saved the president from an assassination attempt, earning a promotion and being entrusted with overseeing top-secret CIA operations where the truth was buried beneath the cold decisions of power. However, the deeper Al went, the more he realized how frighteningly thin the line between justice and crime truly was. He began to question the orders he had once trusted without hesitation. That awakening made Al a liability. Jason Wynn, his longtime superior, understood that Al knew too much and could not be allowed to live. Wynn hired Chapel, Al's closest friend and most trusted teammate, to betray and kill him. In the sea of infernal fire, Al Simmons was burned alive. His soul was dragged down into hell for the innocent lives he had taken in the past. Reborn as Spawn, he returned to the world as a dark anti-hero. Spawn's earliest battles unfolded in the shadows, targeting street criminals and brutal gangs. When Spawn executed Billy Kincaid, a child-murdering pedophile, that act drew two detectives, Sam Burke and Twitch Williams, into the orbit of his fate. Gradually, Spawn became the leader of Rat City, a refuge for those cast aside by society. There, he encountered Cogliostro, a mysterious beggar who seemed to understand Spawn's true nature and origins better than anyone else. From the ashes of sin and betrayal, Spawn began a journey to seek the meaning of his own existence. Caught between hell and the human world, he was no longer the Al Simmons he once was, yet he never fully became a demon either. 5 years later, he returned to the world of the living in the form of a grotesque infernal creature wielding terrifying power but possessing an empty mind, stripped of memories of his past sins and decisions. As his memories slowly resurfaced, Al embarked on a desperate search for Wanda, clinging to the fragile hope that his former love might still be waiting. However, reality proved more cruel than any layer of hell. Wanda had moved on, married Terry Fitzgerald, Al's closest friend, and together they had a child named Cyan. That moment shattered Al's heart and forced him to face the truth that his former life had completely ended. As his soul remained fractured, Violator appeared, a demonic guide disguised as a deranged clown. He revealed the true purpose of Spawn's existence and did not hesitate to provoke him into a brutal confrontation. The clash was swiftly interrupted by Malebolgia, serving as a reminder that Spawn's fate had never truly belonged to him. From that moment on, Spawn understood that he was merely a pawn in an eternal war. With nowhere left to return, he was forced to fight to survive. Standing between the opposing extremes of heaven and hell, Spawn's power is born from the fusion of a body saturated with necroplasmic energy and the living armor K7 Letha, creating an entity with physical capabilities that are nearly limitless. With a single punch, he can shatter concrete and steel as if they were thin paper, or lift massive weights equivalent to an entire building. Spawn's durability is so fearsome that even the most devastating attacks struggle to inflict meaningful damage. When necessary, he can fly at speeds far exceeding hundreds of miles per hour, streaking through the sky like a ghost of hell. Spawn's regenerative ability surpasses all biological standards. Mortal wounds regenerate in an instant, as if they had never existed. He has survived being completely incinerated by anti-Spawn, impaling himself with heavy metal, and even being torn apart, yet all of it proved meaningless before the regenerative power of necroplasm. A destroyed heart, shattered bones, and a chest riddled with holes are all restored instantly. Not only can Spawn heal himself, he can also grant life to others. He once fully regenerated a child's chest cavity and saved Twitch from a fatal gunshot wound. When focusing all of his will and power into this ability, Spawn can pull a life back from the edge of death. Within that demonic form exists a power that is both terrifying and deeply redemptive, making Spawn a living paradox caught between destruction and hope. Spawn wields the power to control Hellfire, a flame that carries not only searing heat, but also the will of punishment. This fire is powerful enough to incinerate Violator and burn the human brain in an instant, and it can even wipe out entire crowds like a storm of annihilation. When pushed into a disadvantaged position, Spawn can also employ illusion-based abilities that are rare but extremely dangerous. He creates false images that deceive the senses of his opponents, forcing them to witness the most horrifying hellscape constructed by their own mind. Some have completely collapsed and taken their own lives after being submerged in these illusions. Teleportation is one of Spawn's most frequently used abilities. He can move at speeds far beyond that of light, appearing and disappearing like a phantom. Spawn has infiltrated directly into an opponent's body to kill them instantly, and on one occasion, he even teleported his own heart back into its original position. In addition, he can turn invisible, phase through objects, and drive his fist deep into an enemy's body as if all physical barriers were meaningless. Spawn also commands formidable psychic powers. He can read and interfere with the thoughts of others, and has once used telepathy to banish a child into a personal hell of his own creation. This power is capable of curing madness, but it can also transform pain into eternal punishment. At one point, Spawn even apologized to the entire Earth, a vague confession for sins that could never be cleansed. His suit can bend and transform into many different forms, from becoming a massive swarm of bats to shapeshifting into different people. He can extend his claws into spear-like shapes. He can manipulate souls in numerous ways, and Letha can nurture the souls of the dead. He contains 6,000 souls within himself and has the ability to take the souls of others. He can recover from explosions that are capable of destroying souls and can summon souls as demonic entities. He was able to permanently terrify Mammon by forcing him to wear a mask. His cape can create a separate dimension, dragging others into his personal hell. His reality warping abilities allow him to create weapons from air, flay living beings, and turn a person's flesh and blood into lethal poison. Spawn can communicate with and command nearby animals. He can unleash a swarm of bats from the wound in his chest and ride upon a wave of worms. He can also summon a demonic species known as the Black Dispersion, a group of powerful demonic beasts capable of overwhelming and destroying infernal demon hunters. From the very moment they confronted each other, Spawn sensed that Darkseid was a threat far greater than even Malebolgia, the one who once held his soul. To Spawn, Darkseid was not merely a cosmic tyrant, but the embodiment of absolute destruction. In contrast, Darkseid regarded Spawn with contempt, seeing him as nothing more than a lowly, infernal creature who would inevitably be crushed beneath the power of Apokolips. The encounter opened with a sudden strike. Spawn hurled hellish chains that wrapped tightly around Darkseid, attempting to drag him into the dark dimension where Spawn held dominion. Darkseid needed only raw strength to shatter the chains, then immediately unleashed Omega beams in relentless pursuit. Spawn was forced to evade continuously, using his living cape to absorb part of the annihilating energy. As the distance closed, the battle shifted into brutal close-quarters combat. Spawn altered his form, releasing necroplasm into magical assaults that pierced Darkseid's stone-like hide, leaving wounds that were slow to heal. In response, Darkseid delivered devastating blows, smashing Spawn into the ground and creating craters that shook space itself, then using his psychic power to hurl fragments of the universe at his opponent. The escalation continued. Spawn summoned lethal souls and erected infernal force fields to resist the Omega beam. Darkseid countered by revealing a more powerful state of existence, manipulating reality and weakening the flow of necroplasm. In a final effort, Spawn poured all of his energy into creating a massive infernal explosion. But Darkseid activated the Omega Sanction, imprisoning Spawn within an endless loop of suffering. Despite attempting to absorb a portion of the Omega energy to fight back, Spawn was completely overwhelmed by Darkseid's cosmic-level power, a being who triumphs not only through strength, but through the cold cruelty of a dark god. Darkseid's new god power far surpasses that of standard Spawn, especially with Omega beams capable of erasing souls and resisting infernal magic. Spawn holds advantages in regeneration and magical hacks, but the limits of his necroplasm energy prevent him from sustaining a prolonged battle against an entity like Darkseid, who has fought top-tier heroes such as Superman. The winner is Darkseid. I hope you enjoyed this battle. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Follow me if you enjoyed it. That is today's video. Thank you very much.